I started gardening by helping my mum when I was a child, like getting the ground ready for her to do her vegetables. Although I'm not really into vegetables, I'm more into flowers. It's sort of the love of gardening started with my mum. I just wanted to start by asking you, Ilan, I know your connection obviously is grandma, but what's your sort of first memory of kind of being introduced to gardening? And where was it?
I just always think of me in the garden running at grandma's house.
Right.
Because when I was born, we were living with grandma for my first few years. I think I was just always like kind of pottering around with her, to be honest, like trying to work out what was going on. And also I think in terms of getting back into it, I think when I was like a teenager and then we started helping grandma with her garden again, my mum was like, maybe we should start cultivating a garden again. So we always did corn, tomato, courgette / marrow, okay. Depending on what size you let it grow to.
Right.
And pumpkin as well, callaloo. Grandma would just sprinkle the seed, and then in like a couple days, I'd come back and there'd be like a pumpkin seed
in the middle of it,
tomato, and then like callaloo like next to the tomato. But that's how always grandma just grew it that way. She just threw the seed out rather than like starting it inside and bringing it out. She'd just throw it out, and the corn would always be at the back, and then the tomatoes would be maybe in front of the corn, and then the courgettes would be like at the side, and then just the pumpkin would just be weaving in and out of everything.
It was I think it was very much sort of like Jack and the Beanstalk, where it's just like she threw it and it just
just sprung out wherever.
Yeah. My grandma and grandpa lived in Kingston, Jamaica, and I guess with gardening, I think it was just to keep me out of trouble, really. I was a bit of a menace. Every time we'd go over there on summer holidays, and my grandma would be like, talk me through what she was growing in her garden, and she had an orchid room, that I like to call it, but it's not, it's like a greenhouse before you go out to the garden, and all these beautiful orchids that were very delicate, and she told me never to touch. And so we would go out there, and while she'd be gardening, I'd be picking up the lizards. It was a really special place. It was the place that we could connect as well as grandmother and grandchild. For them, it was a survival thing for them as well. So a lot of the fruits and vegetables were, everything was kind of self-grown, and it was really, really like inspiring. If you had a cold or if you had an ache, there was a tea for it. There was always a tea that she would go out and she would get this like little concoction and she'd make it up for you.
Don't ask any questions.
Don't ask any questions. Don't ask what's in this tea. Just drink it and be quiet. Basically, the most I needed to know about that, really.
And it worked.
And it worked.
Sure.
And you'd always ask questions. You'd be like, so what does, can I? And she's like, I'm not telling you. Yeah, I'm not telling you.
Most trees, you just, and you have an illness, you just go out there and you have a cold, you just go in the garden and you just walk around and you pick and you boil. Wow. And if you're having pain, as she say, you just go, if you have a swelling,
whatever it is,
you just go to the garden and pick, and boil.
And do you remember the name of any of those particular plants? Like, I know there's, is it
sorrel?
sorrel?
We have cerasee, soursop leaf, and we have orange and lime leaf as well that we used to. And then we plant ginger as well, so, and you know ginger is good for everything.
Now the superfood.
And of course turmeric that we
turmeric
is like everybody had turmeric, but we didn't know
before it was cool.
And then Ronnie and Noreen, I know that you have an allotment. I know that you're keen gardeners.
Yeah, I think the first time I remember going to a garden was on my land in Jamaica when I was a little girl, about 4. The farm is on hill. So you stand on a little track dirt, and I was looking at my dad, and I somehow slipped and rolled away, and he caught me and I said, oh, you almost rolled away, and he said, don't worry, don't cry, and he put me back on the path, and I just watched him, and I just loved going into the field with him, and he was like my favorite person in the world. So everywhere he goes,
Still
I go
is,
with him.
still is.
And so I developed that passion for food and the things that was growing on my land, you know, sugarcane, cocoa, bananas. He would grow this banana and tree, and when it started to bear fruit, he would say, you know, the twin one, because some bananas grew twins,
stick to each other.
and two bananas stick together. He said, that one is yours, and and that was so special. And I was a tiny little girl, and I remember all these things. So coming here, I thought, yeah, well, you know what? I love food. I love to cook. And so when we got this allotment, it was like amazing. And so we started to plant everything, you know, and it's been wonderful. The food is amazing when you see what you can grow: pumpkin, tomatoes, sweet corn, beetroot, mint, you know, cucumber, everything we can pack into that.
In fact, our garden was one of the most confusing garden ever. I mean, it has everything, no structure to it at all. But we totally enjoyed it, especially our first year, which was 2020. At the very start of the pandemic, you know, we thought we got it at the right time. But my background essentially is that my parents moved back to Jamaica when I was quite young. I was about 4 years old. And you know, I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the farming. I didn't like the heat, as far as I can remember.
His family has like 400 acres of land.
Maybe not that much, but we had quite a bit of land there. And they would work so hard, and I would observe them, you know, starting from scratch. Because can you imagine, you have a life here, and you pack it all up, and you move to nothing. So we literally built the house and the land and everything from scratch. And I've observed how they work, and my dad especially works so hard, and my mom is a homemaker. She's just beautiful at decorating the house and beautifying the environment and the aesthetic of the space, you know, the flowers and the plants and everything. And as much as I didn't like it, I just didn't like the way they work so hard, and we are just cruising, like, you know. We're just like cruising, you know what I'm saying? Oh man, this is good. But essentially, when you get down to it and we see how things grow from scratch, like Naren mentioned, when you see something grow from nothing, from a seed into a big plant, into food, it's quite rewarding, and you want to be a part of that. And that's where I got the bug, even though I still didn't like it, because I just couldn't take the heat. I didn't like the hard work of farming. I'm being honest, guys, that I didn't like it. But, you know, it inspires me, and as we get older and we're now parents, and we're seeing the benefit of natural produce, natural products, you know. And we get mucked in. We got, like Naren mentioned, we have such a confused garden. You know, pumpkin here running all over the place. We have corn too dense, and things that just complicated. People look at our garden and say, they're definitely newcomers. But you know, we learn from it, and it's beautiful, and it's such a big part of, even for our faith as well, to see how a seed can grow into something so beautiful and to get a fruit from it as well.
You know, giving away most of what we grow. And Monica, you benefit
Come on, Monica, speak up.
Onions, you know, thyme, whatever. So we give. And that's the first thing I did, actually, because I work with all the community. And when I saw this man delivering some callaloo, I said, where did you get that? He said, from my allotment. And I said, okay, I need an allotment. And so I got it a couple of years later.
Is that where food is? We love our food, and especially the natural produce, you know? Look at this, for example. And it's amazing how much pride you take into a produce, you know? It's amazing.
When I was first looking into getting an allotment, I think Grandma was a bit like, oh no, I don't think you should go there, like, it's not for you. The soil at Grandma's house was not hard, it was quite soft. The soil at the allotment was like solid clay, you know, brick building vibe. Like, you can make bricks out of that clay. It's really hard.
My mum used to say, for example, like, you shouldn't water it or water the plant, the vegetables on an empty stomach.
Oh,
Yes.
Be plentiful that you had to have. Grandma wouldn't allow you to do gardening if you were hungry. She'd always say, we need to eat first.
Wow.
So funny. Yeah, it'd be like no.
I was so not to water the plants in the sun.
In the sun.
Yeah, in the sun. Yes. Yes. We as grandma always used to say that.
Yeah.
That's a very important question, Yvonne, because we notice as newcomers to the allotment, you know, we have seasoned pro that has been there for years and years. And everybody have an opinion of things, you know, everybody say, there's no way you can plant this now, you know, it won't grow, or this is where you do it, or this is not the way you do it. So it makes to the community at the end of the harvesting, where you just come together and naturally have a chat around and play a game of domino or so. And this is when everybody will say, your garden is better than mine, my garden is better than yours. And it's a sort of nice feeling, you know, it's not a competition, essentially.
Grow better than
exactly,
yeah.
Or we should have a competition.
Or your onions are bigger than mine.
And then they want the tips. And
They do? What did you do?
Oh, your callaloo is greener than mine. Because there's a difference in callaloo. There's a green
variety,
and there's a olive greenish, brownish one. So
it's not as it appears sometimes. In allotments, people are quite competitive or quite.
They can be.
But they mean well.
Yeah.
They're not like you know.
And especially those that has been seasoned, those that have been there for years.
Yeah.
I mean, they jokingly call me farmer there because I'm fairly new. So this season one would come and say, morning farmer. And I just take it on my chin, like sort of. But I know he's sort of winding me up in the sense that you're new to this thing, you know nothing. But it's just all friendly banter, it's okay.
My grandma has she doesn't have an allotment, but she has her next door neighbour. They're in rivalry with their gardens, and so they peer over and they look at what they've got going on, and I can see her doing it. I'm like, Grandma, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Like they're looking into each other's gardens and they're comparing each other's flowers, and they're taking. I mean, even when my grandma comes to visit, she'll walk around and she'll take like pieces of flowers and then she wraps them in tissue and puts them in her bag. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, like, and she just, literally wrapping it and puts it in her bag.
They still do it.
We like to have cuttings.
She's got little pieces of flower in her bag. I'm like, okay. But one of her tips was, you should talk to your flowers. You should talk to your plants. So I always used to look at her doing it and think, you're crazy right now. Like you're just sitting talking to you. But you know what? Like it does work, especially with her orchids when they like blossom and all the colours. She's always like, look at God, look at what God's doing. Like because all the beautiful colours in there. And now I'm the crazy lady that talks to the plants.
No, Grandma always used to say when you pick it, you have to pray first. You have to thank God. So every time we pick it and bring it in, like let's pray and thank God first before we eat it. You know,
In terms of like the process of like designing a garden or thinking about how you want to plant it up and what plants to choose, it would be great to know like some of your influences of why you would choose a certain plant, where your inspirations come from.
Agapanthus lilac and the African lilies, and they're really beautiful. So that's what they look like, and it's so gorgeous. You know, it's just so bright and vibrant. And this was taken on the Blue Mountain in Jamaica, right at the top above sea level. So I enjoy that one. It's kind of lilac is kind of my favorite color, and then the princess flower, or a purple glory tree they call it. Princess flower is this one. Get that one up. It's just got this vibrant pink kind of center.
Wow, it's beautiful.
I don't know.
It's almost like a clementine.
it does look like
It's a princess flower, and those are my kind. And the Lignum vitae, the national flower, is similar to that as well.
Well, I like poinsettia.
Okay.
Yeah. And as I was saying to Mel, I like, is it dahlia?
Dahlias.
Yes. Because those ones, they don't take much, you plant them, you plant the bulbs, and they keep coming back every year, so it's you don't have a lot of trouble to get put in a new plant.
Okay.
Low maintenance, right?
I do really love dahlias. That's another one, yeah. And like smelly roses, like especially smelly ones. Like, yeah, definitely smelly ones. And just I do a lot of annual flowers as well, like blue cornflower, cosmos, and things like that. And marigolds, but they're ones quite tall ones. These, I think they're South African or something. They grow quite big. Those are really nice for cutting as well. And I kind of like the really hot colours because I feel like I do like that kind of. It does have a tropically vibe, even though they're not tropical plants specifically.
Right,
But I think the hot colours always look really nice. The orange, the red, and like the bluey kind of purple colours, and the salvias and things like that.
We've planted several avocados or pears because the pear, we call them pears in Jamaica, pear tree, but here we call them avocados. And we always plant the pear seed, but it's never grown. And if it doesn't,
it grows to a point and
goes to a point and doesn't. So that's one thing we miss because I love avocado.
She really does.
Yeah, my mum never used to grow flowers because she says you can't eat it.
No,
don't have no use.
That's a culture within allotment as well. I don't know if it's the same for you, Monica, but these guys are season allotment players. And when we come with the idea of flowers, what we're thinking of is the pollination process, the way the bees make things grow better and bigger and all of that.
Seed, time, harvest. So we just go into that and look at everything that God grew up from the ground. It's just amazing.